Welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, Captain Logun, and we've got a little bit of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we are going to be talking about not Sea of Thieves news because I promise you there's nothing going on, but we're going to be talking about a lot of other stuff pertaining to questions that I put out there for the community to answer, as well as my thoughts just kind of on the state of the game right now, the future of it, what I think Rare should do. There's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, and we'll see how this episode goes. So with that, let's get into it. But before I get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons because they're the ones that are still supporting this content when there is no content in Sea of Thieves to talk about. So I love and appreciate them. So I want to give them the proper due by shouting out them for every episode that I do. Head over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast if you'd like to support this content. It means the world to me. It's helping save up to get a new PC so I can get back into streaming, so I'm not running at 30 frames per second because it's really hard to sail with other folks and get voices and audio and stuff done through the Xbox. And I'm also really hoping that Xbox to stream to Discord comes fast, because I actually really want to stream to the community Discord sooner. I actually kind of like the idea of streaming to Discord more than I do to Twitch, just because Twitch is like I don't know, it's more of a show, whereas like at least with streaming to Discord, it's more like you guys, and I appreciate that. So anyway, wanted to shout out People's Republic, El Cute, Balls, Bam Bam Bagel, Captain Chonky, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, DA Gaming, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fergatron, Godhammer 6, Trickster, Jabaro 5, Jorby Jorbs, Carl Embo, Kazia the Aficionado, Nightstar, Lumpius RQ, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Oars, Xbox Mike 29, Murphy Lives, Mutinous Max, Norwegian, Raja the Brave, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Replicated Flame, Rustbell Kid, Scamelt 666, Captain Dasm, Tommy D, TN Professor, Real Big Tuna, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Captain J Rat of the Flaming Cold Sore, The Lore Chronologist Deadeye Dre, Hager Owl, Jeff H, Ghost Boy 20, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Windsor Chris, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, and Zam. Wow. Thank you all so much for your support. It means the world to me. I really love that you all do this, and it helps. It really does. I just saw I was just reminded about the bill for the Adobe suite that I pay for every month. Oh boy. Anyway, thank you so much for everything that y'all do. I love and love the fact that you guys are all supporting. So thank you. And with that, let's get into this. Let's get into this letter, this news. All right, pirates, it is August. It is the end of August. It is closing in on the final weeks. It's the 20th of August that I'm recording this on, and I wanted to bring this up because I have no clue when the next Monkey Island Tall Tale is coming out. We don't have a release date for that. I don't know when the next event is coming out. We just got Twitch drops this weekend, so hopefully you got your Twitch drops. Pretty good ones, Mutinous Fist stuff out there, as well as some swords and stuff. And I went ahead and picked up mine just in case, because I'm pretty sure I had them, but you never know. It's always good to drop in and grab those just in case. And I gotta say, the Sea of Thieves directory, while it was open to everyone being able to stream, did not feel nearly as full as it typically does during Twitch drops. Now, maybe this is because it's not necessarily Twitch partners only, since everyone can do it. Maybe Twitch partners, or not Twitch partners, I'm sorry, Sea of Thieves partners felt like they didn't necessarily need to stream. But I did see Behaving Beardly and Lady Haradra and Falcor and them out there, and they were championing the game and getting people drops as usual. But I've been seeing online, and maybe this is just social media, maybe it's just my circle on social media, but a lot of folks seem to have to be taking a break from streaming. Numbers are just not high enough. They're not able to sustain an audience to get them the income that they need to be able to continue doing a full-time streaming thing, which is really a bummer. And the reason I bring that up is because the people that I see that are making these announcements are predominantly Sea of Thieves players, and it makes me wonder if there's a correlation. Is there a correlation between the lack of content or news going on with Sea of Thieves right now to Twitch streamers who are on the lower end of like streaming, and they generally focus on Sea of Thieves because that's where they're getting their audience from, and seeing if that is maybe why they're having to stop. Now, I have seen a lot of other streamers that are Sea of Thieves partners that, for all intents and purposes, were mainly just Sea of Thieves. They could spend their entire day streaming just Sea of Thieves, moving into other games, and other streamers are playing different games. They're going half on a lot of their streams, starting off with Sea of Thieves and then moving into something else, even starting to build an audience for other games as a service, as kind of a way to try and protect themselves as streamers. They want to make sure that they're going where there is an audience, and right now for them, it doesn't feel like there's that much of an audience for Sea of Thieves. And I'm not trying to say that the game is dying or anything like that. Sea of Thieves right now is probably the most popular Microsoft first party IP on Game Pass than anything else. I think Halo's in a really good state, but I think Halo is still suffering from a stigma of bad content launch cadence. When the game first launched, they had a really hard time getting that, and Sea of Thieves not too far off from that right now. But Sea of Thieves has also been releasing content for free for the last 5 years, so it feels like they get a bit of a pass for most players. And I think a lot of players for Sea of Thieves are fairly casual. They dip in, they dip out, and they don't really like die hard it the way many other folks tend to. I think the folks that spend most of their time playing strictly Sea of Thieves are definitely a small portion of the population, but a very important part of the population, because I think they're the ones that are seeing and hearing most of what's going on and getting a good feel for what the temperament of the game is at this point. But at no point does it feel like everyone is satisfied with Sea of Thieves right now. I think everyone right now, due to the length of the current season and the amount of content that we've received this year, are found wanting something to do, something to focus on, something to really drive them to want to log in beyond just spending time working on commendations that they never really wanted to focus on, because there's not much else driving them to go do new content. And with Monkey Island, that is kind of the first thing that they've done. They've gotten their commendations, and with the changes to Tall Tales, given like a more more content coming on a regular basis, it makes sense that you would want to drop the requirements to play the Tall Tale more than once or twice if you missed a couple things. But once or twice will effectively get you through all of the commendations that you need to do in the first Tall Tale. And while we're here kind of sitting, waiting patiently, hopefully maybe a little impatiently, to know or kind of get a gauge for when the next Tall Tale is going to be launched, it's got me thinking. It's got me thinking a lot about what Rare does well and what Rare doesn't do well as a studio, and not to malign any of the devs. I think the devs are fantastic human beings. I think they struggle much like many development studios do with having bigger eyes than their stomachs will allow when it comes to sitting at the buffet and thinking of all the things they want to do. I think they bite off a little bit more than they can chew when it comes to what they want to accomplish. Or it could just be that they don't quite understand how they want to go about it, or they want to go about it, but they want to make sure that it's as best of an experience as possible and are willing to delay stuff for that sake. But I was sitting here kind of thinking about Sea of Thieves and thinking about my, I went and I was just kind of sailing around, did a quick little sea fort just to just to kind of make some gold. And I bought a couple trinkets and decided that I wanted to kind of, jot down my thoughts. So this is effectively my rare Reddit thesis. If I was the type to go on and just try and put the studio on blast. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of a heads up. This is probably going to be one of the most critical episodes I think I've ever put out. I tend to be a very understanding or try to be as understanding or empathetic because I don't do devs stuff, but as much of an empathetic person when it comes to the dev studio as possible, and is a generally positive person most of the time. I have a hard time wanting to see negative or focus or allow the negative to really kind of encroach upon my mental state. But I wanted to talk about what I think Rare should do, because I think that this game is worth the effort, worth the time, worth the investment. Like I said, this is Microsoft's most important IP since 2018. State of Decay did not survive. It did not do nearly as well as I think they were hoping it was going to. It did fairly well, but it did not last the way Sea of Thieves has. Halo Infinite's done really well. It's in a good place now, but I think that's Halo. Halo gets taken for granted. And honestly, most of the first party content coming out from Microsoft has been met with a lot of criticism, and not necessarily unwarranted, but it is definitely something where a lot of folks look to games like Starfield to be hopefully the redeemer of the generation, which is a lot of pressure for Bethesda. So I don't envy them at all for having to have that on their shoulders. But from everything I've seen so far, with people talking about, stuff in hushed corners on the internet, it looks to be like it's going to be a fairly good game. Which kind of brings me to my first question that kind of popped off when I was thinking about this whole Reddit thesis that I would have typed out on Reddit had I been that type of person. And that was, is this the best time to be playing Sea of Thieves, or is this the worst time to be playing Sea of Thieves? And I think a lot of this comes down to some very important questions about what you value. So I wanted to kind of pose this out there, and I'm curious to hear if from those of you listening, if you think right now is the best time to be playing, and if so, why? Or if it's not the best time to be playing, if so, and why? For my own thought, I come from it from two different perspectives. If you have, like me, a huge backlog of games just from this year that you have not finished, now is a perfect time to not be playing Sea of Thieves, because you can actually address those games that you may have played for a little bit, but then dropped off, or something else caught your attention, or something came in through Sea of Thieves and decided to draw you away. And now that there's not much going on, there's no sense of FOMO in Sea of Thieves. You've had plenty of time to get your season pass done. You've had plenty of time to get your ledgers done. There hasn't been any new content if you've been up to date and whatnot. Now is the perfect time to be playing Sea of Thieves. If you came to Sea of Thieves at a time beyond the first couple years, and there's a lot of stuff that you haven't done. There's a lot of stuff still locked behind commendations, and genuinely you are still really enjoying the atmosphere, the world, and the encounters that you have. So it really does kind of depend on, I think, first off, how long have you been playing the game? And secondly, how into playing other games are you? Some people, Sea of Thieves is just fine. There's nothing wrong. Well, I shouldn't say there's nothing wrong, but there's nothing wrong in the sense of you wanting to play it on a regular basis. But for right now, there are a ton of games coming out in the next 2 months. And I think trying to release 2 seasons worth of content in the course of the next 3 months, that's going to be really hard for Rare to stay relevant in not only the news cycle, but in the gamer zeitgeist right now. A lot of people are going to be talking about Starfield for the next month. And then after that, there's plenty of other games like Assassin's Creed Mirage, Alan Wake 2. And I think, actually, I have a whole list thanks to XEP. Which, if you guys don't know, XEP is a podcast that I do with Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, where we talk about Xbox content, stuff like that. So if XCP doesn't make sense, hopefully that helps make a little more sense. But I mean, you got games like Immortals of Avium, Armored Core 6, Under the Waves is coming out, Sea of Stars is coming out, Starfield, Lies of P, Mortal Kombat, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Forza Motorsport, Lords of the Fallen, Sonic Superstars. I don't know why I was going Supersonic on that one. The Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1, Alone in the Dark, Alan Wake 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and then you've got like Avatar plus a couple other games that are still kind of like TBD coming out. And that's just kind of like what we have like locked in games with dates for the next 2 to 3 months. So if you're the type of person that really likes to play like other games, you try and take full advantage of your Game Pass. There's going to be a lot that you can actually jump into just in the next couple months. And now would be a perfect time to feel like you can disconnect from Sea of Thieves and explore that. Now, that's coming from that perspective. The other perspective is, should I be using this time to not have to worry about new content dropping where there's FOMO, where I feel like I need to engage with that content because it's fresh, it's new. That's always going to be the best time to work on those commendations. If it is content that brings commendations, when it's fresh, people are doing it, and there's going to be more opportunity for you to either steal it from someone else or people wanting to do it instead of something like, what's something that people don't like to do? Okay, so like the shrine, or not the shrines. Yeah, the shrines or shrines. Yeah, the shrines and the treasuries. Most people probably aren't working on those on a regular basis. They're probably not the most content, or like the message board stuff, bearing stuff. Like the best time to have been doing stolen cargo shipments and stealing manifests was when that content first came out, because everyone was working on those, and you had more chances of coming across someone who had a manifest. Like I think I got a manifest the other day after we sunk a sloop who was not going to even put up a fight. And I was so thrilled because it was like the first stolen manifest I had seen in like months, probably years. And it was so exciting for me. That's all I cared about at that point. Nothing else that we looted from that ship mattered. I just wanted that manifest because it was so bloody, like people's gifts and giving gifts away to other people and having them turn that in. That's my version of that is manifests. So I was really excited when I got that out. I'm not going to lie. But I don't want to focus on that. So working on content like that after the fact is always going to be harder, but it's always going to be even more hard when you aren't able to focus in on that because there's new stuff that you really should be focusing on that comes out. So having a giant lull in content is always going to be the best time to buckle down, grit your teeth, bite at the chap, whatever it's called, focus in on those things and try and get some good progress on them. I know everyone hates them, but the Merchant Alliance does have commendations that most people probably want to knock out at some point. Just most people don't do them. There's more fun things to do in the game. So that's kind of where I was in a mental state as far as like the start of this whole thesis. Let me take a break and I want to get into the rest of this into this Reddit thesis that I've typed up. All right. What Rare should do. My Reddit thesis: allow seasons to exist outside of major content updates. I think I'm finally on board with this. I was thinking about it a lot today when I was sailing around alone, just kind of in my own head. I'm fine with this now. Let's get back to the days of just having major updates. You can still surprise and delight with those, but let's get a regular cadence going. Let's be honest with ourselves. Either we need to drop the season thing because it's a season, but it should have a set cadence. Let's get that. Just have the cosmetics in there like you normally do. Just have the theme like you normally do. It doesn't have to necessarily tie to the big update that's coming in for folks. And let's actually balance the plunder pass. I think it's the easiest to accomplish. I know some folks still struggle with it, but I think that's an engagement issue, not necessarily a means of how to actually complete it. I think just the fact that you playing the game is the thing that's actually going to get it completed. Even if you're not, you can complete the plunder pass just by fishing. Go look at Hilarious's history. The dude has been able to complete plunder passes just by fishing splash tails. So it can be harder that way than if you just go out and get treasure and turn it in, but it is still not a hard season pass to complete, especially compared to things like Fallout 76, Destiny 2, Fortnite, Call of Duty. All of those season passes far more tedious when it comes to getting to level 100. So I think Rare needs to decouple major updates from seasons, have seasons come out 4 seasons a year. Let's keep it locked in at 3 months. Give people a sense of expectation that there's going to be new content. The cosmetics that you guys put out, you've never had trouble putting out cosmetics in the Emporium. You never had trouble getting content for the Plunder Pass. That's like the least of the concerns as far as like updates go. So it's all cosmetic anyway. Just let's lock that in. Let's be honest with ourselves and either drop seasons or keep them locked and decouple updates from it. That way people are getting it, and let's actually make the season pass feel impactful. Let's get rid of that idea that I can get 50 levels in one 8-hour session of Sea of Thieves and be done with the season pass in a week. Let's actually make this thing a little more effort involved, because otherwise you're not going to give. I know I'm asking to artificially inflate the experience. But I do genuinely think that there is something behind having a small level ding that comes, and it's been something that's ingrained in us since JRPGs back in the 90s. Every time you level up, you get access to new items. Every time you leveled up in World of Warcraft or an MMO, you got access to new talents. Every time that seasons give you a new level, you get access to a new item or currency. And I think there's something to be said that having something that lasts, if you're playing the game on a regular basis, at least a month and a half to 2 months before you finally cap out on that, there's something to be said about the mentality behind that, the value that is brought to it by feeling like you've worked towards something. It's a dumb thing. It shouldn't really matter. It shouldn't really make a difference in how you play the game, but you'd be surprised in how I think a lot of people agree that finally hitting that level 100 in a season pass after you've been working on it for a month and a half or 2 months feels great. Joseph Moran, aka Mr. Badbit, from the PlayStation Trophy Room last night, we were playing Fortnite. He hit level 100 and finally got his Optimus Prime skin. He was so proud to have that because that is not an easy skin to get. And Fortnite knows that. They usually keep their really, really big kind of season content locked at that top echelon of pass because they want you to work for it. They want you to be playing the game. Sea of Thieves doesn't care if you play the game after the Plunder Pass. They want you to get through the Plunder Pass, but they haven't built anything into the season pass for those that are getting beyond it. And I think that actually needs to be addressed too. I think there needs to be a continuation of the season pass beyond level 100, rewarding something for it, even if it isn't content, if it's just currency, not actual cosmetics. I think that just needs to be something that will give us a sense of like, cool. How high did I get in my season pass during that one season where it was 200 plus days? Well, I got over to 1,000. Dang, that's a lot of levels, but I'll never do that again unless there's another 200-day long season. So something like that. Addressing storylines that were promised to be addressed. This is kind of a weird one to be saying like it's promised, because I don't know that it necessarily was promised. But Pendragon, he's been missing. He's been MIA for a long time. Is he written off entirely? Are we ever going to have him come back? Are we ever going to go after him? I think this needs to be addressed. I think this needs to be addressed in either two ways. Either one, we go get him, or two, the major characters of Athena's Fortune address the fact that we'll never see him again. Much like the mystery with DeMarco, so much of that is left to people to discover on their own. I guarantee you that you could probably count on one hand the number of people in the world that have done the DeMarco mystery to the end in the last year, and on one hand. You could probably, I don't think there's maybe a galleon crew that went out and completed the ending to that mystery. I would love to have them prove me wrong with analytics, if that's even possible to track. But Pendragon, man, I love that character. I know a lot of people think he's too arrogant and too goody two shoes and stuff, but he's the type of hero that I love to see in stories and stuff like that. He is the Superman, but he's been trapped in kryptonite for too long. I'm honestly just kind of annoyed at this point that it hasn't been addressed, and I feel like could have been addressed at any point. I don't think that his storyline is intrinsically tied to anyone else's. I think you could get away with just about anyone else's plot line without it necessarily having to be taking place at the same time as getting Pendragon back. And I think that needs to be something that's talked about. Tasha is tied to the finale for the Briggsy update, for the third chapter in that tall tale. That needs to get addressed, and I think that needs to get addressed sooner rather than later, because I don't even think the curse ball that was near Tasha, that was keeping her from turning into a skeleton, is even at the tavern anymore. Explain it away however you want. It's not in the game, so it doesn't really show any relevance to the story, in my opinion. And I think that needs to get addressed in two ways. Either one, we address it directly and go save her, or two, she turns into a skeleton and we have the honest conversation with ourselves that not all skeletons need to be evil, and that maybe we could actually have some more good skeletons. Like, go read Heart of Fire. There's good skeletons out there. I don't see why this needs to be Salty, good skeleton. Parrot, but good skeleton. I don't see why this needs to be something that is taboo. Like, let's address that. And Rare, honestly, don't be afraid to do this kind of stuff, because I think that it's easy enough to start like blurring the lines. You've already done it with the curses. Like, we have ghost pirates that are bad, we have skeleton pirates that are good. Let's start addressing the multiple factions of skeletons out there, and maybe address the fact that they aren't all have to be enemies. I think we need to be a little more brave about that, and try and blur the lines behind good and evil beyond who has flesh and who doesn't. Let's get it. This has been something I've been asking for forever. If you guys know, but I've been asking for this forever. It'd be nice if it actually happened one day, but let's get dual ship launch system for the front end of the game. I'm so sick of having to roll for two ships. I don't need a whole server. I just want two ships of any size on a server so that I can hang out, spend time with my community members. If two ships can organically alliance in a server and join into a party chat, I feel like this is a small ask at this point. There's nothing stopping people in game from doing this already. It's just a matter of the fact that it's two people or two crews that didn't know each other before joining the alliance. And I get that they want these organic meetups to happen so that you can meet new people, and you can forge new friendships and stuff like that in game. That kind of thing happens outside of the game. That kind of thing happens in communities and happens in Discord servers. So let's take that into account. Let's allow people to actually join up on a server with minimum two ships. I just want two ships. I don't need three ships. I just want two ships. I don't need four ships. I don't need a whole server. I just want two ships. 8 people is usually enough. I usually don't have 10 people or 15 people that all want to jump on the server at the same time on the same day. So at this point, I hope that's a thing that comes. I think that's a thing that would really, really help a lot of streamers too. I think that would help invite them to into a mindset that allows them to have fun with their community, let their community join in on the festivities, have some fun with things. It would sure as heck make what's it called? Glitterbeard a lot easier to do if you could if you could have two ships that you could jump in, you could launch into a server with. And there's nothing stopping people from having two ships and having two different communities battle against each other. Chances of them getting on the, 4 ships on the same server is going to be really hard, but there's nothing stopping that right now too. It's just time. So really this is just about saving time. Ocean crawlers, man, ocean crawlers are awesome. I actually really love ocean crawlers. I think they're a really fantastic add to the game. It was the first kind of non-skeleton enemy that we've ever gotten to the game beyond stuff that's just purely in the ocean. So ocean crawlers, they need to be able to jump on your boat. I'm going to be honest. They need to be able to board boats. This is something that I thought was coming with A Pirate's Life. The animation's in there. It's just an engineering thing at this point. The reason why it works on the first Tall Tale in A Pirate's Life is because on the ferryman's ship, it's a static boat that's not moving on like a physics-based ocean. It's just a static boat on a static ocean, and they can make things jump up onto it. It doesn't have to calculate the landing or anything like that. It's all very kind of scripted. And if they can get skeletons to walk on boats, if they can get NPCs to walk on islands, it's just a dev cycle at that point. I would like it for ocean crawlers to be able to have more impact than just showing up onto boats. They don't need to burrow. They don't need to, go into their hardened shell state. Just be an annoyance. Give a little more flair to something, like have it be that if you're near a certain area, or if you sail over a certain thing, you're going to trigger an event that's going to cause, not an event, but like trigger something that will cause ocean crawlers to spawn on your boat, and you're going to have to deal with it. And it's no different than having a megalodon spawn on you or a kraken spawn on you. But in this time, it's ocean crawlers, and you get a couple on your boat, or you get a whole bunch on your boat, depending on how big your boat is, and just something like that. I need something like that. Stop releasing content that's hot out of the oven. One of the biggest mistakes I think Rare is making right now is having content updates that are coming fresh out of the oven. They're still warm. They haven't had a chance to cool. And they don't have anything really banked for release when the time is right. And currently, my biggest issue right now is we know there is a second Tall Tale due for Monkey Island. We also know that there's a strong chance it's been built for a while, but not done by the time the first Tall Tale launched. And Season 11's features are due to come out 1 month after Season 10 is launched. That is a huge mistake. That is a gigantic mistake. You've already apologized for the long season. We get it. Dev cycles are tough. You had a plan. It didn't work out. You're still working through it. We'll get Season 10 when we get Season 10. But the biggest mistake you're making right now is that Season 11's features are coming out in November. That is such a bad idea. You really need to hold on to Season 11 stuff, because you need to make sure that Season 11 stuff is A, ready to go, B, not going to mess around with Season 10's stuff too much, and you have time to address issues that are going to crop up with Season 10, because inevitably Season 10 will have something that will crop up. Something will break, or something will, this is assumed at this point that something will happen and it will need to get addressed. And if you're too busy polishing Season 11, you're really going to have a hard time addressing issues that come up with Season 10, because you're going to be too focused on Season 11 stuff and you're going to miss it. That's my opinion. I don't know. I'm just armchair developing right now. But the best thing they should do, or the best thing they can do, is commit to launching August 19th or October 19th for Season 10. Have 3 months for Season 10. Finish up the 2 adventures that you've already got rolling, and address the last community event that happened with Pendragon versus Flameheart. Like those are the three things I think Rare really needs to address. When that's all said and done in those first 3 months for season 10, then you release season 11. And I think the problem here is that when season 10 launches, it's going to be October, November, December. They're going to have something launch for January, February, and March. And guess what's at the end of March? The anniversary update. So at the end of March, they're going to launch season 13 and whatever the anniversary content will be for season 13. And I just think that's the wrong way to go about this. You're trying to make up for the lack of content in a year that's already lost. Reset the expectation. Launch season 10. Give us 3 months of time with that season. Give your teams time to work on and continue polishing season 11 and then polishing season 12 and get those prepped and ready to go. And if those are set and ready to go and there's no major issues with season 10, that just gives so much more time for season 13 and 14 and any tall tales that you want to work on or anything that comes that you want to like take some dev time towards. You've bought yourself this time. Don't squander it by trying to shove too much content in front of the audience as an apology, because we're already forgiving you at this point. Otherwise, people are gone. They've already quit Sea of Thieves. They're not coming back unless something major happens. And I guarantee you, releasing content too fast, if it's not polished and in a ready state, will not bring them back. It will not bring them back. Having an even cadence of good updates over the course of 9 months as opposed to 6 months will help build trust, because I think that is what's hurt right now is trust. It's the one resonating thing I've heard from tons and tons of people is that the community just doesn't trust Rare to be able to handle a seasonal cadence. We knew that the monthly cadence was ambitious back in 2019. It didn't quite work out then. Tall Tales came out for Pirate's Life in 2020. Anniversary update came out. We've had some really good updates, but the best updates have always been the big ones that don't necessarily tie into seasons, which is why I think it's important that we really just come to terms with the fact that seasons should exist without being intrinsically tied to updates. I'm finally coming around on that. I admit that originally it was something that I railed against because there's a marketing aspect to this, but I think Rare does marketing on a different cycle than most other studios do. Most of their cycles for big content updates come in the summer as opposed to other ones who focus on the holidays. Rare already has holiday stuff built in intrinsically with like the Orb stream and the Gift of Giving stuff, as well as Festival of the Damned time frames for Halloween and things like that, which I'm really looking forward to. But I guarantee you, it is going to be a really bad time to launch a lot of content during October and November and in December. You got a lot of people playing a lot of different games in October. That content is going to be really fresh, especially given that you're launching it October 19th. You're then going to give us a month in November to before we get season 11 stuff. People are going to be very busy during November. Trust me, I look at my numbers when it comes to podcasts. There's always a dip during November and December because people are busy. They aren't listening to podcasts as nearly as much. They aren't playing as nearly as much because there's a lot of family stuff going on, especially in the United States. There's always like Thanksgiving and then Christmas and Halloween. A lot of big holidays during that time. They're busy with other stuff. They're focusing, they're saving money. They're trying to pay for other things. They're not going to be, really thinking about games too much unless it's like their thing. Prove me wrong on this, folks. Feel free to send me the analytics. I'm willing to be wrong on this and learn something that I didn't know. This is just anecdotally looking at the numbers that I have for podcasting analytics that is tied directly to one game's work stuff. Plus, I know, honestly, there's a lot of the studios go on huge breaks. They take like 2 weeks off at the end of December. And honestly, if you've got season 10 rolling from October to November to December, have something for January. Have season 11 pop up in January. Have that go till March, and then have season 12 be the content for March and the anniversary update, and just whatever 13 comes around, have that pop off for June. So I want to say I feel bad, but I feel like I'm not. I'm not upset. I'm just being honest, because I know what will probably go over well with the community, and I see the mistakes that are getting made now, and I want Rare to rethink their approach to this. You don't have to apologize. You've already apologized for the time lost. Just get something in line that ensures that cadence will be addressed. Because again, this goes back to what I said earlier. I think it's a difference, not necessarily in whether or not players have something to do, but whether or not players trust that there will be something to do in the future. We're fine right now. People are making do. But I do think, like I said last episode, we really need to have dates. And I really think that we need to have the dates for the events. I think those need to just come out. There's no secrecy to what they are. I think we just need to be able to plan, especially given the fact that a lot of us are having to, still kind of like plan around stuff like that. We want to have more time to be able to know, like, when are we going to jump in for content, stuff like that. I'm really hoping that we get news this week on Monkey Island Tall Tale 2. I hope it's not one of those things where they're just like, and it's coming out Thursday, because that would suck for me personally. I'm sure a lot of folks would be happy about that, and I'd probably be happy about it as well too. But on the 22nd through the 25th is Gamescom. It's also the release of Immortals of Avium. It's also the release of Armored Core 6. There's going to be this is the kickoff for the fall time frame for games. Like, Gamescom is basically it. So I hope they're not going to release it then, because I think it's going to get drowned out in the news, and I would really love it if folks had something to talk about for Sea of Thieves instead of it being a smaller story that won't get any attention. And that's a shame, because I think I hope that's not what happens. But having it being the 20th and not knowing when the next Tall Tale is going to be coming out, when we've got, because they usually do Thursday updates, we've got the 24th and the 31st, and that's it. Which, now that I think about it, just as a reminder, the 26th is the next Gold Hoarder recording. So if you're listening to this now, the 26th is when we're going to be recording the next Gold Hoarder episode. And I'm open to opening up the table to whatever the Gold Hoarders want to touch on. But that's pretty much it. That is my kind of Reddit thesis, or my letter to Rare, that I think they need to hear, because I don't think that I'm alone in these opinions, and I don't think that these opinions are anything new. I think these are opinions that are things that folks have really wanted to say or get across to the team, and I think that that's important, that Rare do what they've always done and listen to what their community is letting them know is how they feel. Now that I've said my piece, I wanted to. I reached out to the community on Discord, which, if you guys don't know, Keelhauled podcast has a Discord. It's my favorite place to spend time with, because it's got all my favorite people there, and they are always here to kind of help and talk with me about stuff in the game, or just to help other people, or just to keep up with gaming news. But it's a fantastic group of people who are very welcoming and very kind. And honestly, I don't deserve them. But I reached out to them and asked for ideas on what would make the game better beyond just like the scheduling thing. And if they have any quality of life fixes that they'd like to see come to the game. So I wanted to read them here because they put in the effort, and I want to make sure I recognize that. So first off, we're going to go to top of the list. Murphy Lives, who wrote in some really good ones that I actually really like. A little thing would be that he'd love mobile placeable lanterns, just like stools. They could only be found in select areas around the Sea of Thieves. You'd be able to pick them up and place them anywhere, with the ability to turn them on and off and to change the colors. And I think that would be really smart, because there's so many things that I think folks have done that are very unique and cool looking. But aside from the fact that this would just be a portable lantern, This would allow people to be able to change the lighting and tone of a screenshot for the contests really, really well. It would also be really fun to be able to like pick up a lantern, walk it over, even light it, being able to light it yourself would be cool, like strike a match and then put it in there and then close the thing. And then you can walk around with it and you can, aside from just the click off, click on kind of it lights, it doesn't light magical lantern that we have. Something like that I think would be really cool. So I actually really like that idea and make it a little more involved than just the click on, click off thing for the mobile version. Murphy also goes on to say a complex thing, an hourglass game mode, but on a larger scale, similar to Return of the Damned. It would be a server-wide battle for control of the sea or control of the seas between Reapers, Hideout, and Port Merrick. Depending on the allegiance ships sank in this region, a green or red fog would appear on the map between the two outposts. The allegiance in control would receive better payout on all treasures sold at either Port Merrick or Reaper's Hideout. Call it the Battle of Twin Groves. That's something that's really interesting because it plays around with the idea that I actually was thinking about after I had read this, where during the community decision where it was Flameheart versus Pendragon, we sailed around to the different sea forts and we had to enchant dolls by killing Soulflame captains and taking control of the sea forts for the different factions. I think that this needs to be something that is just inherent to the game. Sea forts are currently under control of Flameheart, who is still just kind of nebulous name that we don't have a body to in game that we can point at and be like, I'm going to kill that fool. I think that sea forts, much like this, need to be something that you can capture. You can, and beyond just Reapers versus Athena's Fortune. I think this needs to be a faction-based thing. So Reapers, Merchant Alliance, Gold Hoarders, Order of Souls, Hunter's Call, whatever faction there is, have a flag be something that you can raise there, a little pennant at the top of the flagpole for each of the sea forts. As far as I recall, there are 2 per sea. So like Shores of Plenty has 2, Wilds has 2, Ancient Isles has 2. If you capture both, that sea, that area gets bonus rewards for anything turned in to any faction in those seas. So like you go out, you capture both sea forts, you raise the flag for both the Gold Hoarder, or for the Gold Hoarder. Anything turned into the Gold Hoarder specifically gets that bonus. And that way it kind of draws a little bit more love to the really, the really unused company faction leaders at each outpost who have names and should be respected. But they don't get any love because of captaincy, which, I mean, I'm not hating on, but it would also make me think like, hey, if there was a way to try and deter folks from just using captaincy all the time, maybe this could be a way to do that. Especially if you're working on stuff that is tied directly to your ledgers, right? Every month you got your ledgers, you want to work on those. It's a server. You go out, you take down both sea forts. It's like an hour tops to do both. Like if you're taking your time, or if you're solo. If you're a crew, it'll be even faster. You capture those, and then you take the treasure from those. You've already got some treasure stacked away, and then you go off and you do whatever you want. And until other people go and clear out those sea forts and change the faction, you get a bonus on that. And maybe it could be tied to maybe you raise your flag on there as well, or something like that, or everyone benefits from it. And if someone wants to change it or something, they can either go to a different sea, but if that sea becomes too highly contested, maybe they have to come back and fight for those. But it might actually be one of those things that, much like the adventure, draws attention to the sea forts, brings people to the sea forts, the thing that they wanted to have like be the TDM areas for players that don't get used, something like that. So the other thing that Murphy lives, and sorry, Murphy, I didn't mean to try and hijack your suggestion here, but it just got me thinking a lot. But the other thing that Murphy wrote in about was a social thing. Turn the upstairs of every tavern into a portal that transports you to a social server. No killing, no fighting, just chatting and gambling on gold with games like chess, checkers, Carneth, Liar's Dice, or Hanefaltalf. I have no clue what that is, I'll be honest. You can only bet gold coin to avoid any gambling / age restrictions. Set the pirate limit to roughly 25 pirates. A great spot for the social game room would be the Sea Dogs Tavern. Like, I feel like that's an easy win. You know, so many of us want to have something like that. The problem really does come down to, if it's set to 25 people, how is this something that, like, is this something that would be able to be done for folks that want to have that many people that they all know, as opposed to just randos? Because we already have something like that, and that's the Pirate Legend Tavern. Doesn't matter what tavern you go to. If you go down into the Pirate Legend Tavern, it doesn't matter which tavern they do, you'll see those people there. The only difference is that you can kill people down there, and most people usually don't hang out there because there's not much to do down there except talk to Ramses and ask him, you know, why he smells weird. Ghostboy20 wrote in. Thank you again for that. Says, I've been saying this for a while. Fortnite Fridays should return. It made Friday nights such a fun time, even when much wasn't going on. Forts were active players. Forts were active players were fighting over a normal fort, even when the seas are as calm as they have been. Now, having a Friday event allowing players to fight at forts with extra gold was always nice to see. I would love to see events like Ashen Expeditions make a return. The Roar has been dead for a while, with only a handful of pirates hiding out there, but events like this would bring that area back to life. Yes, please. Seasons have their normal thing. Just like in other games, there are specific weekends that are special weekends that are tied to bonuses in items or you know, gold, things like that. And it's completely disconnected from any of the story stuff, any of the update stuff that happens. Just have that be just something that is on a regular basis. You know, just like Golden Hour. Norwegian wrote in, said, even the playing field. If it can't be done on controller, then remove it. That goes the other way around. If it can't be done on mouse and keyboard, then it should be removed. And no more double gunning. People's Republic responded to that and said, force the sword, in reference to doing a sword and one gun. Luke Lore decided to say, y'all heard of PvE servers? And I think that's something he's been asking for a while. People's Republic says, I have no issue with killing pirates. This is a PvPvE game. After all, I have issues with using an animation cancel exploit to gain an advantage in the game that was not intended. The devs have come out and said as much. The easiest absolute fix to that would be to force a sword in one of your loadout spots. If I can't double dig, double gunning animation cancels should be taken out as well. Heck, keeping the double gun, just force the entire reload animation. And then Norwegian, I think, responded to that and says, if you're going to have crossplay, even if it's optional, then it needs to be even across the board. If you can fire 2 shots with an animation exploit faster than someone saying parlay, then it's an issue. Trying to do it on controller might break your fingers. Watching double gunning Xbox players try to switch guns on the deck covered in storage crates is entertaining though. And I agree. This was something that I think we've all said. You know, we're sick of PC players having the ease of being able to animation cancel, kill people with able to breaking that. And I think they know about it. They're working on the fix. It just needs to happen and then stick. Trickster wrote in. Thank you, Trickster, for all the love and support you always give me. Fixing fast carrying as well too. And this was something that I think I addressed with Chris Marlowe in an interview forever ago. That they don't think it's an exploit because it's not really. And I'll actually defer to the interview. You guys probably want to go back and listen to his actual verbiage on there because I can't remember it. But effectively, it's not as bad of an issue as other stuff is. So they're letting that fly. But yeah, being able to sprint loot, I think needs to get removed as well too. If I can't double dig, I don't understand why I should be able to turn in faster just because I'm on PC. Let's see. And that's kind of where I think a lot of the discussion kind of goes into the, yeah, I agree with this and such. Regis Stella wrote in and wrote a lot, so I'll kind of summarize here. But effectively, if the live action version of One Piece does well for Netflix, they would love to see One Piece make its way to Pirates of the Caribbean, much like the way Monkey Island has, much like the way A Pirate's Life has. One Piece, a series that's been going on for 26 years, that is finally rounding the end of its lifespan, has been very popular over the years. The Straw Hat Pirates, something a lot of folks that are into anime know about, and a lot of folks would love to see brought to the game. It really does come down to how would that be implemented, if it would just be a tall tale series. And if that's the case, I'm not saying I wouldn't want it, but I am saying there are a lot of stories that I would rather have completed first before we start bringing in any more outside stuff. And I stand by that. If Peter Pan stuff has to wait, let it wait. I'm fine with letting Peter Pan content wait. Hook doesn't need to be a thing in the game until we get some of these other plot lines shored up, and I'll be happy. Deadeye Dre wrote in as well and says, more small scale weekly events a la Fortnite's Ashen Expeditions, Hourglass Boost to keep people wanting to dip in, even when there isn't something major to do. And they have thoughts on how they should restructure seasons, to be honest. And I also agree with that as well, too, as I talked about earlier in this episode. But for the most part, a lot of people on the same page. Everyone really realistically has the same desires when it comes to the game. And I'm pretty sure that the devs are aware of this, but it's just at this point, I really do think that my major issue is the lack of transparency when it comes to scheduled events during a time of lull when we need news. Not just for the podcast sake, but just because I want to be able to plan my weekends and stuff like that, especially given how busy I'm going to be in the next couple months playing games. But additionally, with season 11 content, I strongly think that's a bad idea to launch that a month after season 10. We should have the time with season 10. If you guys are willing to put season 11 content in a month after season 10, I worry about why season 10 is something that had to be delayed if you don't have faith that it would sustain a 3-month cycle. Otherwise, it just feels like you're apologizing for lost time and trying to get back on schedule. You guys are already beyond the stay on schedule thing. Don't worry about it. Just do season 10 at 3 months. 3 months after that, release season 11 content and just get back on the cadence that way. Don't try and rush stuff just because you have an artificial plan, or not an artificial plan, an arbitrary plan on where you want content to drop on certain time frames. But that's just my opinion, and a lot of that is based off of very little information that we have. I don't know what's coming in season 10 outside of I honestly don't know what's coming in season 10. I have ideas from what people have said, but who knows at this point. Season 11, no idea. I have no idea what's coming in season 10. No idea what's coming in season 12. But I think that it should have its time to shine. Let it have its flowers. Those dev teams worked hard on that content. If they don't get the 3 months to let that content breathe, then it's just going to be a really hectic bunch of seasons, and it would be, and I think that's why I think it's important to separate event content like updates to the game or major content and changes to the sandbox, or things that you have planned like Festival of the Damned. Separate that from seasons and just let seasons be cosmetic time crunches that go on for 3 months, and then have stuff fall in wherever it fits during that time. Because otherwise it's just, oh no, we have season 11 and season 11 has all of these holiday things planned for it, and how are we going to do it because season 10 was delayed so long? And now you're running into this problem where you're slamming the community with a ton of content in a short amount of time, and then it's going to be a huge wait before the next thing that happens. So I don't know. That's it, folks. That's all I've got. Those are my hard, honest truths that I feel like I've been saying it for a while now, and I have no clue what I'm going to say next week, but I hope it's tied to Monkey Island and not us circling back on this. It'll actually be the community episode, so I'm not too worried about it, because it'll be a good time to just chat with them and see what they've been doing, and see if they come up with some better ideas than what we've talked about today. So, Pirates, if you enjoyed this content, I always appreciate the love and consideration. Just the fact that you're listening to it always brings me joy. Let me know if you want. You can always reach me at CAPT_LOGUN on Twitter. I'm Captain Logan, or I think CAPTLOGUN on Blue Sky now. Haven't done anything with that yet. Still very new, but I did finally get a code thanks to Earn in the Kylie, the Aficionados Discord, reached out, gave me a code for that. So I appreciate her for doing that. Otherwise, email. It's still a thing, folks, believe it or not. Email me over at captlogun@gmail.com. Otherwise, join the Keelhauled podcast Discord. It's the best place to get a hold of me. It is the best place to meet other pirates. It's a great way to jump in and hang out with some folks to work on Sherpa stuff if people want to start building out events for that. There's also going to be a ton of content coming in for Xbox as well as other games. I think a lot of us are jumping into Fallout 76 right now, and on the Xbox client, not the PC client, because they're separate. They don't have crossplay. But additionally, there's Destiny 2, Diablo 4 clan. Still, I know there's going to be a lot of folks that are probably going to be jumping into Starfield, so I'll probably build a channel for that so that they can share their characters and any weird stuff that they find on planets, or, you know, companions or ships that they make. There's going to be a lot of customization to that. I know there's a lot of folks that love Bethesda stuff, so I'll probably be doing that in the future. In fact, I might actually do that tonight. But effectively, that's going to be, that's what's going on over in the Discord. Having a lot of fun with folks over there. So Pirates, if you enjoyed this, thank you so much. Again, other than that, that's going to do it. So I hope you have a good rest of your week. I hope you got your Twitch drops. I don't think there's no word on what's coming next week. So it's going to be a big old surprise for everyone. And Pirates, with that, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.